guys, welcome back. Got another episode of the Eric Gubler Podcast. Today we have Devin Wilkins in the studio. Thanks for coming.
Appreciate it.
Devin, you just changed to a different company, actually. You were with R1. Who are you with now?
So now I'm just doing my own thing. So it's DSW Appraisals. So rolling, starting my own deal, my own company, and
Awesome.
And it's been good. So coming up in September, it'll be a year of being out. Still, talk to the guys at R1 and love them. And really, in Southern Utah, we've got a great group of appraisers. So It's a really, really good place to be.
Well, that's what we want to dive into today. And just thanks for coming on the podcast, by the way. But
thanks for having me.
Want to be able to dive into the appraiser world because there's just not a lot of info out there.
Right.
You can't Google it, a lot of it.
Yeah.
You've got to have somebody that you either know, and there's not even a lot of agents that have an appraiser in their back pocket that they can ask questions to. Yeah. And there's also a stigma of like, you don't talk to the appraiser.
Or you can't,
which isn't true, right?
No, that is not true. The thing that you cannot do, you cannot influence value. That's the only thing.
Right.
But other than that, appraisal is just data. So you've got to have good conversations and good.
So what about, when you're talking about, because here's what I hear all the time. Lenders are like, well, I can't talk to the lender that's representing the buyer.
Right.
I can't talk to him at all.
Yeah.
Is that true?
To an extent, because that's why. So now there's AMCs, Appraisal Management Companies. So they're the middleman between us and the loan officer, so that basically there isn't collusion of, hey, we need this certain value or anything like that. So there is an AMC that is usually the communication mediator between us.
Okay.
But
what does that look like on your back end? Is it a system, software? What is it?
Yeah. So usually, so in appraisal, another thing, like a lot of people think that I work for bank XYZ or a certain lender, and that's not the case. Yeah, exactly. So appraisers are third party neutral, so you go and get on panels and things like that. And you sign up with some of these AMCs and try to get on their panel. And then, they play the middle role part. I still have great relationships with the LOs. It's just harder to have a direct contact on a specific assignment or things like that. So
what about real estate agents and consumers? Can they call you?
Yes.
All day long?
Well, and so that's another probably misconception is, appraisers, it's only for banks and lending work like that. No, I work with a lot of real estate agents doing pre-listing stuff or even just, hey, I've got this really tough house or client or whatever. Sometimes, unfortunately, you guys have a tough job and you need us to come in and be the voice of reasoning. Hey, this is not where this price is gonna be.
Yeah.
Let's get a professional appraisal or their opinion, and then you get a save face with your client,
and that helps us so much in our world, because as a real estate agent in Southern Utah, there's so many people that will think that their house is valued at more than what it should be. And no matter how many comps you can show them or whatever you think, try and stay neutral and show them, they will always look through the lens of, my house is better.
Yeah.
And I get it. I've sold multiple homes and I've had those tendencies just kind of in the background playing, and I have to shut them off.
Right.
So I know that it exists.
Everybody wants top dollar. We get that, but at the same time, it's got to be within reason, right?
The eyes of the consumer, what is it going to be, right? And so to have you guys come in and be able to give us a real value, it kind of puts that to bed a little bit, or at least takes us out of it where it's just data.
Yeah.
And now it's not a fight. We're on the same team. And I think that's what's important is in all of this, if we're doing our jobs correctly as an agent, appraiser, title, lender, home inspector, whatever it may be, we all should try to play on the same team to be able to help our clients stay safe, not get in a bad situation where they go to court, right? And then and get the deal done.
Yeah.
That's what we're trying to do, is we're trying to transfer money.
100%. And I think that's a lot of people, the appraiser, he's always going to come in low. That's not the case. Yeah. We all want to be on the same team. We want to deal the work as much as anybody, but we have a job to do, and we're there to collect data and
Yeah.
analyze all that. And hey, here are my findings, and here's what I'm seeing. And sometimes that doesn't, always work out exactly how, a consumer or somebody wants it to. So you have to be. We have usually no problem being kind of the bad guy.
Yeah.
So, but that being said, I mean, you've played team sports and stuff your whole life too. Like we all are on the same team, and we all are going for the same goal. And
I think that's the right mindset to have.
Yeah.
We're all trying to get money transferred to be able to make a transaction happen. Now, you guys have liability on your side. I mean, you could get audited, and you got to make sure that everything, or you could lose your license, which is your income for your family.
Right.
And so you have some liability there. You can't just fudge it, know. There's always some room to play, but I always feel like with you, you've always been good at like trying to make the deal happen. Let me understand what's going on behind the scenes.
Yep.
Is there something else that I don't know?
Right.
Because I think the good appraisers have always said to me, hey, help me out because I don't see everything. And they're willing to admit that they don't know how many offers you got. Right. They don't know how busy you've been. They don't know maybe you just see comps that are in the area, but you're not boots on the ground every day.
Right.
And I appreciate that about you and other appraisers that do that. So, I mean, how much does that really play into it?
I think that's huge. I think think, it's almost like, a doctor's bedside manner. It doesn't benefit me if I'm just, hey, this is how it is. There's no conversation, cut dry. No, that leaves a bad taste in everybody's mouth. I really think that it's important to be able to have those conversations. And I'm not perfect. Yeah. If there's things that are missed, like, like, explain to me how you came up with this pricing. Did you do a CMIA? Did you Zillow it? Did the the homeowner tell you that this is where they wanted to be? How'd you come up with that number? Or, when in situations where there's a disagreement that my value's wrong or something like that. Okay, I'm 100% open to having a conversation of why we got there. Yeah.
Let me throw out a scenario and let me hear your answer straight. I mean, the best that you can. Let's say that you're doing your best to be able to make a home appraised for a certain price, and you're coming up like $10,000 to $15,000 short. And you're like, crap, I really want to make this thing work, but it's just not quite getting there with the comps that I have.
Yeah.
If you call me and I say it's only been on the market 3 days, I had 5 offers, they all came in at or above. How much does that, can you manipulate, or does that have any weight, I guess, in the appraisal?
Of course, because it's the big picture, right? The analysis of it all. So you're always going to have a range of comps and where things fall on that. And obviously those show, hey, it had limited exposure there. It's had a ton of, we've done open houses and 1 million people are coming through this thing. So that's, and like we were just talking about, those are the conversations that need to be had, because if I just see, hey, they listed at X.
Appraisers aren't asking those questions most of the time.
Right.
There's some good appraisers. You're one of them.
Yeah.
And that's why I stay in touch with
Sometimes.
you. No, you are.
Yep.
And there's some other good ones, that are out there, but there's a lot of them I never hear from.
Yeah.
And we'll come in short in value, and they never have those conversations with me. I always appreciate it if we're going to come in short that they just call before they finalize the report and it gets a little bit tougher.
Yeah. To
just ask me, help me out here.
Right.
Like, we're coming in here. Do you see anything that I don't see? Why aren't appraisers doing that more? That's a tough question to answer because you're not them.
Well, and two, there's appraisal has honestly been the same for so long. In the past, even a couple of years, there's so many changes that are happening. There's going to be different forms, and there's going to be these different, and with all the, AI and automated values and things like that. Some appraisers are afraid that they're going to, do away with appraisal, which they're not. But they're so set in that way of, hey, I can't talk to anybody. Hey, you can't talk to me. I'm the, that's not like there has to be, and even if it's post fact, like we were talking, a reconsideration of value.
Yeah, talk about that. A lot of people don't even know. I mean, I probably went until COVID.
Yeah.
I didn't have deals that really got messed up by an appraisal that bad.
Right.
Then all of a sudden COVID took off and nothing was hitting.
Yeah.
Because the market was just growing too fast and appraisers couldn't keep up. And so then we would have to do reconsiderations of value. And I'm like, oh, what the hell is this? I'm not used to it. So explain that because most people I don't think know what that is.
Yeah. So it's a reconsideration of value. So say that the appraisal is short and it needs to be revisited just to see, or hey, you didn't use these two comps that I know in my neighborhood that sold that are really similar to my
They're
house.
not on your report.
Yeah. Can you reconsideration, or at least look at this?
Look at them. And
so I think that's huge, because I get asked, how come if I'm selling my house, the appraisals, I already know it's just going to come right back at the purchase price. Yeah. And that's because if you have a knowledgeable seller and buyer, it's probably going to be close to that purchase price if it's somebody like you that priced it right. And so there's a reason that it stays close to that. When you have a refinance, you could get 6 appraisals that come all over the place, especially if you have a unique property. So sometimes that reconsideration of value is nice, just to have, somebody come back and say, hey, we feel like you missed this, or, something like that. So the reconsideration of value goes through your lender, and you just submit kind of your rebuttal. Here's why I disagree.
Yeah.
So,
and that's why I think it's less work if the appraiser just calls me as the agent.
Yes.
And I can do that up front before the appraisal comes out officially. So we don't have to go through this reconsideration, which could take 3 days.
Yeah.
4 days. Like, it just depends, right, on the appraiser. I mean, it could take 1 day if you really wanted to, right?
Yeah.
But it usually ends up taking about 3.
Yeah. So, and I know it's all just, it's personalities.
Personalities, huh?
It's all personalities, because some people don't even want, it's a waste of my time. I already did the appraisal.
Yeah.
What is this?
Got to keep making money.
Yeah, I did my work. Or I know, I've heard some horror stories from agents that they'll prepare a appraisal packet, and when the appraiser comes, they won't take it, or, things like that. And that doesn't help anybody.
No.
And honestly, like I said, even though it's friendly competition here, we have a really good group of appraisers.
Yeah.
And a lot of us, will even sometimes call each other and be like, hey, like,
stuck on this.
Are you seeing this the same way I'm seeing it?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Or, have you ever appraised I've got this kind of crazy property. Have you ever appraised this before? What are your thoughts on this? So
we do the same
it makes
thing
it kind of
agents,
nice.
for sure.
Yeah.
Let's, if I can go here, and I think I can, I think you call it the queue, right? Like, so you have a queue where the lender will submit into a queue, and then somebody picks it up.
Yep.
I understand that face value. I don't understand the back end side of that. Is that good or bad? What are the pros and cons of having a queue where you pick something up? Because one, I can see, it kind of removes this healthy competition where you're an entrepreneur and you really have to provide good value, because you're always going to have business come in this queue.
Yeah.
Right. So you can have some not as good appraisers that could still stay busy. But on the other side, it keeps things randomized.
Yep.
So what are your thoughts on it?
Before, and a lot of it was the financial crisis, right? Before it used to be, hey, I want Devin to do my appraisal here. It just come directly to me no matter what.
You're talking before 2007?
Yes.
Okay.
So before the crisis. And so that's why they have created the AMCs and the queues, is because usually the way it's supposed to go is there's a set of appraisers on a panel, and it just will randomly, here's an order, it goes to this guy's queue. Here's an order, it goes to this guy's queue, rather than, hey, I want Devin to do this one, or, I want appraiser X because he did such an awesome job last time. So unfortunately, you hear sometimes of, people call me and be like, do you know so-and-so? That's this appraiser? And I'm like, I don't. Yeah. I said, they just did an appraisal for me. And so, and with the growth that we're experiencing, I don't know every single appraiser here in town. And everybody has their own way of doing stuff. So there's going to be those personalities. And so sometimes you're going to get the appraiser that you don't necessarily have that relationship with, or or that comes in low or something.
Yeah.
So
but they're always going to have some business then.
That's
like, is there what separates, I think, the competition? Is it equalize? Like, here you got one, so you get, or do you guys pick them up? How do you divvy it out?
It's supposed to go kind of like a roulette. So it's supposed to go, here's one to you, here's one to you. But there are, it's not like you just sign up for a panel and you automatically get on it, or you go to a bank and you're automatically on there. They will, do their due diligence and make sure
that you're good, or your company's good.
Exactly. And two, you need to know market. Even though, so I grew up in northern Utah, but am I going to accept something in Salt Lake right now and cruise up there and do some appraisals? Absolutely not. No. Because I'm just not as familiar with that market
and it changes
as I used to be. Yeah.
Almost month to month during COVID.
Exactly.
But now, I mean, even 6 months, it's going to be different.
Yep. So you've got to prove kind of that you know what you're doing, and things like that. So it's hard. It's hard, of course, too. Like when things are slowed down a little bit, you want more of that queue to keep coming your way. Yeah. But
then you get some private stuff that'll come your way, right?
Yeah, which has been, when it was cruising, I almost didn't. Everybody was so busy. You almost didn't have the time to really reach out and do those things. So private work has been awesome, and it's just fun to build the relationships with local realtors and lawyers and everybody.
This is an off-the-wall question. I've never thought of it till right this second. Why don't appraisers market themselves? I've never seen one.
Honestly, I think that before we really, this sounds horrible, but we really didn't have to.
But you don't have any regulation.
It was so busy.
You're just busy.
Yeah.
But there's no regulation of like you can't.
No.
Really?
No. You go out there and so you have to market yourself right now. You've got to go out and knock the doors and meet people and try to get your name out there, So appraisers are kind of bad at that. Most. They're like accountants. They're introverts. No, serious. So, and that's the thing. It's I think a lot of appraisers, it is like, for you can't be like, oh, you can't talk to me. I mean, you have to talk to everybody and market like crazy and whatever. Appraisers have had it good that we can be like, hey, like you can't talk to me. I'm just kind of this guy, back here doing the work, and nobody really knows who I am or has seen me or. So.
I just think it's so interesting because once I've been doing this for 8 years, and I don't get hit up for lunches like I did when I first started.
Yeah.
Because when you're first getting started, everybody wants your business and they want you to be with them like for life, right?
Right.
And then I think they kind of start to know, like, once you develop roots, like you have your core group and it's really hard to break that up.
Yeah.
And so they just don't try as hard. But I've never once in 8 years had an appraiser say, hey, can I take you to lunch? Never once. So to hear you say that, yeah, it's free game, I'm like, that's wild, because lenders are sharks.
Yeah.
They'll take you to lunch like,
oh yeah,
like nobody's business, right? Like you're the hottest girl in the world and they want to take you on a date, right? They just want to get in bed with you. Like they want you so
bad.
Make
me feel bad because I've never asked you to lunch.
No, you're good. But I just wonder why that's the case, because I think it's an open market where somebody could do more private business. But to your point, for a long time, for several years there, it was so busy where it didn't make sense.
Right.
It's a waste of your time.
Yeah.
So I just think it's interesting because lenders can, title can't. Yeah. They can't come to us as agents. So I wondered if appraisers had restrictions like title.
Well, there's nothing that says that you can't go out to lunch and things like that. And too, like one of the biggest helpful things have been their office lunch and learns. I love it's really just like a conversation, just like you and I are having. Usually it's, hey, here's kind of a topic that we're going to talk about, how to price something, how do appraisers look at XYZ versus us as realtors or something like that. But really it just turns into great conversation and learning on both sides, because it is interesting. Okay, here's how I do my appraisal and how we come up with our adjustments and things like that. And then, here's how we kind of do our CMI, and here's how we come up with it. It's just fun to have.
So I want to do this then on camera. I'm going to explain how I would do a CMA as an agent. I want you to fill in the gaps and be like, here's how I would do it. Here's why I would do it. Here's why you shouldn't do this. Here's what,
cool.
Okay.
Yeah, let's do it.
So if I'm doing a CMA for a client, okay, and feel free to just wreck it or be like, yeah, no, that's good. So I'll take their property and there's two different ways. Let's say it's an HOA or not an HOA. Let's start with an HOA.
Yeah.
If it's an HOA, my mindset is that the cells within the HOA community hold more weight than similar properties outside. So those are easy. That's why I want to get that over with quick.
Yeah.
They're typically the same square footage, same model, same year,
cookie cutter.
Very cookie cutter, track home, and so it's a lot easier to see this one sold for 310, that one sold for 320, that one's at 315. We're somewhere in that really tight group. Yeah. It's easy, right? To be able to see what it's going to be at. If we want to go more custom though, and now we have a house that's on an acre, it's got a view.
Yeah.
Right. It's dated. There's not a lot of other homes that have sold that are quite like it. It's the only one of its kind on a rim. Like, how do you value a view? So I struggle with that all the time, and I'll try to go all over Southern Utah, find anything that's like it.
Yep.
And I'll take pieces of it. I'll listen to what the client wants to do, and I'll try and get as close as I can by square footage. Square footage, what other price per square foot has been sold. Because I think in Utah, I feel like we're very square footage based, right? Yep. And then age, lot size, I'll take all those things into consideration. I'll try to throw 4 or 5 homes that try to support it. But then in the back of my mind, I'm going, I could be, if it's $1 million home, I could be $50,000 to $100,000 off. Yeah. So what's the difference with what you do?
In all reality, you're pretty much doing the same as an appraisal because it's an opinion. So that makes it tough because everybody's going to have different opinions based on comp selection, how you adjust it out, things like that. So a lot of adjustments for view and things like that become subjective. But in an appraisal, you have to bracket. So you've got to bracket the size of the house. You've got to bracket the age. You've got to bracket bedrooms, bathrooms, all that kind of stuff. So that being said,
I'm going to pause you. A bedroom, for it to count as a bedroom, does it have to have a closet?
If you can literally find a definition that says that it has to have a closet, it's so subjective. Everybody when I'm on appraisal says you have to call this a bedroom. Well, unless it actually makes like say that it's a short-term rental or something like that it obviously is having an extra bedroom is going to create more value for it. Really, usually in an appraisal, the overall square footage takes care of that. So I don't even usually adjust directly for a bedroom. So if as long as it has,
you're not gonna get mad or frustrated or like ding or whatever.
As long as it has a door and a window, I have no
ingress,
problem.
Egress, right? Yep, and it meets a minimum like 300 square feet or something.
Exactly.
Then you're good.
And that's the thing. I tell people because they're like, well, what about this? What about this?
Dude, it's so common.
Put on your hat and look at it just as a buyer, or if you're going through this.
The buyers all come into these houses and they'll go, it doesn't have every time, dude. Every time, it doesn't have a closet. It's not a bedroom, and I'm just like, do I even say anything? Is it worth my time?
You're gonna use it however you want. If you get somebody that's a retired, California couple moving,
you're gonna use it however you want. Yeah,
a retired couple moving here from California, even if it has a closet and whatever, and they want to use it as an office, or they're gonna use it how they need it. It's gonna get utilized to the best of that buyer.
Yeah. I'm gonna say this because it's on this topic, and I'm sorry to go a different route for a second, but I had a seller reach out to me, and she had her house listed for 6 months. And in 6 months, they probably had 6 showings, and they could not get it sold. And they had a house that was being built in Cedar.
Yeah.
And and they had to get it sold.
Yeah.
Well, they hired an agent from Cedar, and I don't know the agent, so I mean, I don't even feel bad saying it, but she worked for a team.
Mm-hmm.
She hadn't had a lot of experience, and they had a office without a closet, had the window, totally felt like it was a big office. They had it marked as a 3-2, and they brought up to her from the beginning, should we mark this as a bedroom or an office? Oh, no. It's not an office, or it's not a bedroom. It's an office because it doesn't have a closet. We can't mark it. I will get fined, is what she said. And I was like, the hell you will.
By
who? Yeah, who's the
By
governing
the real
body?
estate
But that's
police?
what she told her.
Yeah.
And so I told her, I said, look, you're around 2,200 square feet. I'm going to take on this listing because she wanted me to take it on.
Yeah.
We're going to mark it as a 4-2. And I said, it will help us. We got that thing. And there were some other things. Pictures are huge. I won't get into all the things. But that was one of the biggest things, just marketing the property as a 4-2. We got under contract in 10 days.
Yeah.
And it sold for like $10,000 under what we asked for it, which was still well within what they needed to sell it for. And it was a done deal. And she was just like, oh my gosh, you're the best. I'm like,
and you didn't get fined?
And I didn't get fined. You know?
The real estate police didn't come knocking your door.
Nobody cares. And so I just think it's so funny that in our world in real estate, we're like held bound to these rules that don't exist. There's no Gestapo going around checking any of this stuff. But I'm not even saying that in the sense of like we're trying to be fraudulent. It's a freaking bedroom. Like, get rid of this whole, well, it doesn't have a closet. So what? Put a dresser in there.
Seriously.
Build a closet.
And that's the thing. Like, what would that, you'd be maybe a couple grand to put
you think Joe Biden's going to come and like attack you because you, like,
probably.
Or the Utah State, what, you know, no.
Absolutely not. Well, and I think you probably see it all the time too. The things that people think matter so much, especially when you're buying your home and things like that. 6 months, a month into it, the things you thought you cared about, you forget about.
Yeah, for sure.
And like you said, you utilize the home how it needs to be.
Yeah, for sure.
None of that even.
It doesn't matter. And what does a buyer want? Do they want a 3-2?
Don't get caught up on that stuff.
Yeah, well, somebody's going to get 2,200 square feet. My thought process was they probably have a decent amount of kids at 2,200 square feet. Otherwise, a 3-2, you could have 1,500 square feet and be a lot less price point. So if you're looking for that price range, you probably want a 4-2 because you have a bigger family. Yeah. Let's mark it there. And what happened? Boom. Sold. Done. Boom. And she refused to do it. So I think in a world of infinite possibilities that we play in, we put real estate in a box and we think we got to play with it. I grew up in Santa Clara, like good old boy town, right? My grandpa and his grandpa here forever. It's like my mindset all the time is get the damn deal done.
Yeah.
Get the damn deal done.
Yeah.
That's what we need to do. That's what I get paid for. That's what people want me to do.
Exactly.
There's zero, I don't want to do anything fraudulent. Yeah. Neither do you. But there's so many things where it's just like we get stuck in our head, like this scenario of the bedroom, and it's blowing up the deal for 6 months for those guys.
Well, and people just, I mean, they'll just dig their heels in. No, it's it's an office.
Yeah.
Okay, it's an office.
Yeah.
I will literally say, I'm like, look, it doesn't change a thing in my appraisal, so.
Because you're going off the total square footage.
Because the square footage adjustment is pretty much going to take care of that.
Take care of it.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, that being said, they're like I said, you have to bracket. So if I'm appraising a house and I've got 4 bedrooms, then I've got to have a comp that has at least 4, if not 3, and then 5, or bracketing that number. So, but yeah, it's just funny. It's all a mindset, right?
Yeah. Here's a random question. You don't have to mention any names. In fact, I don't want you to. Do you feel like there's any, whether in this town or in southern Utah, close to southern Utah, appraisers that are very aggressive? And
of course.
That are like, you look at it and you're like, you push that thing like way too high. They get away with it?
So I just had a situation where
if you do, I want their number.
they sent me a reconsideration of value, and
this was an appraisal you did.
So somebody had previously appraised it before I did, and then so they sent me a reconsideration, and the homeowner was just livid. And so he had said, he's like, well, we just had this appraised, and it was, he had X higher than you and whatever. And so I said, okay, can I see the appraisal? He showed me some of the adjustments and things. I was like, wouldn't make that one. I wouldn't have made that one. I wouldn't have made that one. So you're always going to have both sides, because there's also, I get all the time that there's, as soon as they say who appraised their house, I know that it's probably going to be conservative. It's probably going to be on that lower end. You always have a range. There's always a data set of, hey, these houses are within, similar year built, similar square footage. They're comparable.
Yeah.
But there's a range, because you've got the low sell and the high sell, and in an appraisal you have to state one value. They ask for that one value, even though it could be, hey, realistically in the market, this could bring X to Z. And like you said, I mean, that's the funny thing is, you and I met in one of those, based on one of those HOA situations, a PUD of townhouses.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it was conversation, which was awesome. And look where that's,
I
mean, how many years ago was that? And it built that relationship, and it built trust between us. Because we had an open conversation.
To get somebody to have a conversation in the appraisal world. And I try my best, Dev. I really do. I'm aggressive enough for my client to where I'm going to put things on the table, but I'm never pissed at the appraiser, where I'm not going to come at them like guns a-blazing or ready to cut throats. I'm not that guy. Yeah. But I'm going to hold their feet to the fire and make them explain to me why they did what they did. Right. And if they can give me a good answer, I'm good. Yeah,
appraisal is logic and data. Does this make sense? Did you explain why you did what you did? Can I follow this, and is it consistent?
Yeah. Do you remember when I called you about the one that, it was not that long ago, a couple months ago, I called you about the one that came in $5,000 short? Do you remember when I called you about that one?
Yes, sir.
I had a $400,000 property with a first-time home buyer that the appraiser never called me and came in $5,000 short. And I'm sitting here going, over $400,000, you can't push it up $5,000. Because to the buyer and the seller, who are both young couples, another $2,500 or $5,000, 25 each side was a lot. And for one, the seller wasn't going to budge. So then it was now on my buyer to come up with another $5,000, which was
when things are tight,
already stretching them with closing costs and everything that they have to pay. I'm sitting here going, could you have at least called me?
That's tough.
Then on the flip side, we go and get a reconsideration of value. You know what he did? He came in $3,000 above. He didn't even hit at the 400. He came in at 403. I'm sitting here going, what are we doing here? Like, why did you? And the conversation that he had with me, I'm not saying names, was, well, I just have to be careful because I have a family and I got to make sure that I don't get flagged, and I just got to be careful with it. Do appraisers do that because if they stick it a little short and then they reconsider, does it show up that they're being more conservative? Or, if it gets a reconsideration of value and then they change it later? Or how does that look on your side? Why do they do that? Or why did he do that?
One thing that brings up in my mind that's tough is the government sees all, right? So a lot of times we get a response from the lender
for the bedrooms, right?
Right.
Okay.
So that we'll get a response from the lender, and it's like, hey, you didn't use these comps that basically the automated value pulled up, or all these things, and Utah being a non-disclosure state, I'm like, where are those cells? Where'd you get those cells? Yeah. So sometimes they see things that we don't even see, and they usually before they even send me out for appraisals, they know a ballpark of where it's going to be. They've already done their due diligence to say, hey, we know where this property probably should lie, and so if it's outside of these metrics, then. But with tight margins, that's hard. It's just a matter of comps, and if obviously he felt like it was that he was at the top of the top. So it's hard to when you think, and it shouldn't be the thought process, but when you're dealing with $5,000 in a loan, I mean
400,000
over
3% down.
Yeah, you're talking about dollars, you know.
And then why did it come in 3,000 over?
Never know. Those are
That's
those
unexplainable, huh?
Well, and that's where you would hope that you can have an honest conversation to at least see, like, whoa, like, okay, you've got to explain this to me, and we're so close, because I mean that could have killed your deal. What if they really
for sure
don't have $5,000, you know?
Well, my buyers didn't,
and so it's like that could have killed the deal, and then you're
seller commission, buyer's agent commission, the seller be able to move on to their next house. They had a house under contract, and the buyer wanting the house.
Yeah.
For $5,000.
That's tough. Those are tough situations.
There's a lot of parties involved there that are losing big over a little bit of money.
Yeah. Well, I think too it's important education. Like it's important for appraisers and stuff to be up on their game. You were talking about when we were going into COVID hit, and it had been hot for so long. We're like, oh, here's the slowdown. Here's going to be the slowdown. Well, it leveled out for 2 seconds and then went 10 times crazier.
Yeah.
Right.
Did that a couple times.
Yeah. So it was cruising so fast. So there were a lot of appraisers that weren't, they call them market adjustments. So time adjustments. There were a lot of appraisers that either didn't know how to, and this is, I'm talking even nationwide when you're on forums and stuff. There were a lot of appraisers that weren't making any kind of time adjustments when we're increasing at a rapid. So education is part of that. Hey, an appraisal is a snapshot in time. Usually the lender wants to see comps no older than 6 months, a year sometimes, but that's starting to push it a little bit. And when the market's increasing, they want to see the most recent they possibly can, right?
Yeah.
So you're really looking at a data point that's already passed, but you're trying to say this is where it's at right now. So you got to look at the whole picture. What are listings doing? What's our, okay, this has 120 days on market, where our average days on market is a 90 or a 60 or or like you said, when there's a lot of action and it has 5 days on market, multiple offers, everybody wants it. You have to look at, is that reasonable? I mean, there was that period of time that everybody was waving their appraiser. Their appraisal. Yeah. Appraisal, hey, I don't care where it comes in. I'll pay the extra.
Do you think that appraisers nationwide could have stopped it if they would have done better at the time adjustment? Do you think that played into part of the problem of why we shot up so fast and homes are less affordable today for first-time home buyers?
No, because I think a lot of people think appraisers can somehow dictate what the market does, but they really can't. As much as they would, as much as some of them maybe try to put the brakes on or whatever. No, because people are still going to do what they're going to do, and it's
your point, paying cash, and waiving appraisal. That's your new comp, right?
Yeah. Well, and
because that's what the market's willing to bear.
But then you go back to again. I mean, if I see on a lot of forums and stuff, the appraiser can't use a cash deal. It's got to be a conventional or an FHA. It's got to be some kind of lending to be able to use it as a comp. So some appraisers won't use cash deals as a comp. Where again, you just have to look at, was it within reason, and maybe call and have some conversation. Sure. Hey,
but we don't get a lot of that here. I mean, California, you do.
Well, and I think you look at, okay, it listed at $550 and it sold cash for $560. Maybe if it listed $550 and it sold for $7,
then you're like, that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
I get way too many sellers and buyers, but sellers specifically, because they're trying to sell their house. They say this still to this day, and I think two things are funny about this. The number one buyer coming to Southern Utah is not California; it's Salt Lake County, by like 27% versus like 7% in California. Yeah. So they talk about all these Californians. They don't know their data.
Yeah.
That's crazy to me. The second thing that I think is so funny about it is they think Then on the flip side, well, I just hope that I get some California person coming and buy my house for
Just
$100,000 over. And I
Yep.
hear that so much, Devin. And I'm like, guess what, guys?
That's
it
your plan.
doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And it didn't really happen during COVID either.
Yeah.
What did happen is that the agent was doing a good job at saying, my people are cash. They really want the house. Let us know where other offers are at and we'll beat it.
Yeah.
And that's what happened.
Yeah.
But they weren't just flinging money and saying, we're going to pay $200,000 above asking.
Yeah.
We were seeing 30, 40, 50 sometimes.
Yeah.
But not, I mean, I have a buddy that worked the Bay Area. They'd have properties sold for $1 million over asking.
You hear those stories.
That doesn't happen here.
Yeah. Well, and so it's all data too. I had it, and it was a townhouse, and I go there, and the price, it had gone so above list, and I'm like, and so the realtor tells me, she's like, well, we've had 12 offers, and I'm like, yeah, BS. So she gives me a binder, and it's got the 12 offers in there. So I literally could go, okay. Well, legit, what am I going to say? No, it's not worth this. You've got 12 people that are willing to pay this.
For sure.
So what am I going to do? Slaughter that? You've got to as everything's within reason, and if it's logical and what the data, read the data, but the bigger picture of the data too. And don't play God.
Yeah.
You know, I think
like
so,
that.
I think it really is, you know, you're dealing, there can be kind of almost a lot of power in that, right? You're stating a value that can literally break a deal.
Yeah.
You know, you could blow up a deal very easily by coming in short. So it is important just to look at everything and be open to conversation and to looking, you know, maybe there was something that was missed, or maybe an adjustment can, you know, here's the range of where that adjustment could be. Maybe we can do this adjustment up a little higher to maybe get it there.
Yeah, that's good. Because
like that.
When it's operated by humans, it can never be perfect, and you
Right.
give it to some other human, he's going to do it different.
Yeah, it's an opinion.
Yep.
It's an opinion.
There's no way randomly you're going to give it to 10 people, and they're all going to come in with the exact same value.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. And that's what I tell people on why the differences of a purchase versus a refi, especially on a tough property, because it's not a target, because you're not basing, the appraisal isn't based on this purchase price, but obviously you look at that and, you know, okay, this is where does that make sense? Is this within the range of what the market, what the sales and listings are going for? Or is this an anomaly that?
Yeah.
But our market is healthy. Yeah. I've done a couple parade homes this year, and usually when it's a parade home, you know that it's going to be tough because it's just so overdone.
Yes.
But they both had really good I mean, our even close to 5 million market is healthy.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool to see.
That is cool. Last question I'm going to ask you, then we're going to wrap this up.
Okay.
Because you just mentioned a $5 million property. That's tough.
Yeah.
How do you go about appraising multi-million-dollar properties? Do you approach it any different?
Not really, because
unique.
You know, one interesting thing has been, I've been doing probably more million plus deals than a lot of what you would deem the affordable, you know, the townhouses and the things like that.